180 and with rapid speed down to 2500.
Point wherever you reduce speed to 180.
BlackBox.
All right, hey, welcome back to the show. I'm sitting here today with one of my important people in my life. And, you know, probably 3 months ago or so, maybe a little longer, maybe 6 months ago now, I was like a little B word, and my back was hurting on Mother's Day, of all days. Go figure. I bend over to pick up a bag, and we were on a little vacation with Kat and the kids, and Ian and his family, and as we're leaving, I go to pick up my little duffel bag and tweak my back to the point where by the time I got home, I could barely get out of my car and stand up. So this gentleman here today, Dr. Robert Marsh, is one of my new favorite best friends, pals in the world. He helped me recover. In probably a week's time, I was feeling like a new person again.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Marsh.
My pleasure.
Dr. Marsh is a chiropractor extraordinaire. And is that the right term to use? What do you like
extraordinaire?
To tell me? Extraordinaire? Yeah.
I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take it. Yeah.
All right. So you've got a pretty interesting background, which is why I wanted to bring you on the show today and chat with you. So thanks for coming out.
My pleasure.
And one of the things that you do that I'm a massive fan of is that you support our military.
Absolutely, 100%.
And one of the things we've just made a staple in our show is to salute those men and women in uniform. And not only the military, is also our men and women in blue, our first responders, you know, especially in the world we live in today. So important to pay a tribute to those guys
Without a
and
doubt.
gals. So if we can, let's throw a little toast, as usual, to those folks.
Cheers.
Dr. Marsh. Clink. There we go. Little blue label. Johnny Walker, we're still waiting on a call
Always the
from
best.
Yeah, so here we go. And by the way, patients of Dr. Marsh, he abstained today.
I abstained reluctantly.
Yes, it's hard to reluctantly abstain, but he's a true man of principles here.
We try to be.
So that's awesome. So, hey, thanks for joining the show today.
My pleasure. Well, thanks for having me.
I know we've tried a couple times to get you on, and probably my bust.
That's all right.
So,
we made it happen.
That's like me. The girls in the office, especially Lindsay, she loves to hate me. She's like, oh.
You keep her on her toes.
We're going to put Kenny on the books. Is he
That's
going
right.
to show up? And yeah, so
We're here for you.
yeah, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You have a great staff, by the way. There.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Awesome,
They keep
awesome
the place
people.
running.
So I have to be honest with you, though. I'm going to take you back a number of years, and I was telling you in our green room, our little kitchen, before the show, that in true transparency, I always thought you guys were quacks.
You are not alone.
Okay.
Unfortunately so, yeah.
Yeah, misery loves company.
Yeah, that's
huh?
right.
So why do people, I can tell you my personal story, and I will, but I'd love to hear from you. Why do you believe your industry has been picked on that way?
Well, I think it's the word ignorance comes to mind.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Marsh.
Not you, but the general public. You know, and this stems back to, you know, the infancy of chiropractic and a lot of the legal issues we ran into as a profession with the AMA, the American Medical Association, where they saw chiropractors back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s practicing quote-unquote medicine without a license.
Oh, wow.
When in reality, we're not practicing medicine at all. It's the complete opposite. Yeah. What we're doing has nothing to do with the allopathic approach or the medical approach. It's more of a hands-on treatment.
So when you say practicing medicine, and it's interesting that we use the word, like I have a practice.
Mm-hmm.
And what practice means to me is that it's not perfect.
That's right.
So we're practicing on folks.
Right.
What I found interesting is that the practicing you did on me, I actually improved.
Yeah.
I was taking ibuprofen. I was doing all of those things to try to reduce inflammation. But a friend of ours, and he didn't like me to talk about his name too much, one of those special warfare guys.
Understandable.
Yeah. So we'll keep their name silent.
Yep.
but we'll just say Lou. Shout out to Lou.
Absolutely.
I was like, man, who do you go see? And he was a pretty busted up dude from all the battles that he had been through. And he's like, oh, you got to see Marsh. Go see Dr. Marsh. And I was like, and then his wife said the same thing.
Yeah.
And she works with a lot of those guys at the teams.
Yeah, she's in my world. Yeah, exercise physiologist. Yeah,
right. Yeah, and she's a beast, man.
She is. Just saw her last week.
Did you really?
Yeah, jiu-jitsu's beating her up more and more every week.
Ooh.
So we got to keep her together.
Lou can't back talk her.
That's right. Definitely not.
Bad day.
Definitely not.
So practicing medicine versus chiropractic. What's the big difference there?
I think, really simply, we take an inside-out approach versus the outside-in.
An inside-out approach.
So the medical world, you go to a medical doctor, and again, I'm not bashing the medical world. We have the best medical emergency care system in the world. But in most cases, the issues that chiropractors see are not medical crisis. They're musculoskeletal issues, or get deeper into the nervous system and really what we're doing for patients. But our allopathic approach in our society for generations has been, I have a problem. What do I take to get rid of it as quickly as possible?
When you use the word allopathic, excuse my
the
ignorance.
traditional medical approach, the medical model where you're seeing a primary care physician, orthopedist, those types who are examining patients and then taking them through a course of diagnosis and prescribing a medication for the symptom. And that's really the big thing.
Treating the symptom.
Treating the symptom, yet we're not really treating the cause. And that's kind of, a big rabbit hole we can dive down to, but that's the premise of chiropractic, is that our job is to use a symptom, and it could be a musculoskeletal symptom, it could be a visceral issue, but let's track that symptom back to its cause and figure out how to allow the body to naturally stabilize and take care of itself on its own, which it is designed to do as long as all systems are working well.
So in my little injury that happened back in Mother's Day, where I pulled my back, probably the number one complaint you'd probably get in your office, especially from men, I would assume.
Yes.
There was something else probably going on that I'm compensating or overcompensating, and my back just goes, nope.
Yeah, so the moment your back went, that was a straw that broke the camel's back. I hate using that analogy, but it comes up all the time in practice. There typically is a long timeline of slow breakdown without you knowing it, and just a quick understanding of when we talk about the nervous system and what creates somebody's back going out, or a tweak of the neck, even a headache. Our nervous system, brain, spinal cord, all the nerves that branch out, they go everywhere. Every cell, tissue, organ in our body, only 10% of that nervous system is pain-based. So if you take a nerve, cut it like a cross-section as if you're looking at a cable wire, 10% of those thousands and thousands of nerve fibers is what we can feel sensory-wise. 90% has nothing to do with pain or sensory. It's more autonomic. It's the functional side of our nervous system. So that tells us that there can be 80% of nerve loss before you ever experience a pain. So that day you could have coughed or sneezed. You could have picked up your kid wrong, pick up a bag, and people assume that's when their problem started, when in reality there was a timeline prior to that was breaking down.
Right. Wow. So I want to come back to that, and I want to come back to the quackiness of, pick on the industry a little bit.
That's right.
When you got into this industry, looking back at your bio and talking with you a little bit, you actually started out as an athlete. Is that right?
I like to still consider myself
a
bit of one.
Yeah, right. Me too.
Past tense, right?
Yeah. A little football in my day.
That's right. It's more cornhole now for me. But
and holding a can and balancing yourself as you throw. Yeah.
Muscle memory.
There you go. That's right. But your sport of poison was baseball?
Baseball, football through high school, but then collegiately went on and played baseball in college as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I find a lot of baseball players. There's a few guys in our community who perform at a pretty high level in baseball and have gone out to do physiology, weight training. Jeff Nichols, is a guy I think of.
Absolutely.
Comes to mind. It was a really good baseball player.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I follow him on Instagram, and bright guy.
He is.
But what about sports? What about athletics? Is there anything there that drove you to?
honestly, what drove me to chiropractic, and it's, most times when you talk to a chiropractor, ask him how they got into it, it was usually family induced, where their father, grandfather were chiropractors, and it just got fed to them, or it was an athlete who was injured and couldn't find the right, path to recovery, and somehow got pushed into the direction of chiropractic and had this eye-opening experience. Like, wow, this is an incredible therapy where I'm not masking symptoms with medication. I can actually get to the root cause of the problem and continue on with my activities. I didn't have one of those cool, sexy stories.
Yeah.
In college, what had happened with me is that I ended up actually blowing my arm out and needing rotator cuff surgery my junior year. So that quickly kind of ended my baseball career. And I said, man, I got to buckle down here and figure out how to graduate in 4 years. So, that pipe dream
was baseball to be like MLB and try to play at the next level?
I mean, as every college kid had that pipe dream, there was an infinitesimal chance of that for me. But, of course you have that thought in your head as you're going through school. But when that all came to a stop, I said, okay, well, now what do I want to do? I was fortunate enough to have my college advisor who I went to and said, well, now what? I gotta figure this out. I'm going into my, end of my junior and into my senior year. He had two golfing buddies that he put me in touch with. One was a physical therapist, one was a chiropractor. I told him, I said, look, I want to be in the health and wellness field, I think. I've always been in athletics. It's just kind of, it makes sense. So I spent my senior year doing internships and spent the mornings with the physical therapist, the evenings with the chiropractor, and had a great experience with the PT, but something about chiropractic, which I had never heard about. I mean, most people, who get into chiropractic knew of it as a child or into the early adult. I mean, I was 21 at the time and still, couldn't even spell chiropractic.
Yeah.
Had an incredible experience with the doctor, Dan Sheely, West Windsor Chiropractic, right outside of Princeton, New Jersey. Had a small home practice. He was at the latter stages of his career and just kind of brought me in. I saw the ins and outs of it, and being a poor college kid, he had me stick around nights, and I'd have dinner with his family every night, which was fantastic, and just really got me to understand, some of the philosophies and the background of chiropractic. And so that was it for me. I ended up going to his alma mater, New York Chiropractic, upstate New York, and
that's a pretty popular chiropractic school, right?
On the East Coast, yeah. I mean, there are. I think
isn't there one in Atlanta too?
There's Life University in Atlanta. Yeah. There's some Midwest. The big one is Palmer. Out in Iowa. That's the flagship chiropractic. That's where basically chiropractic began. Okay. It's named after D.D. Palmer, who's the creator of chiropractic. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now the story behind that guy, D.D. Palmer.
Cool story. You heard it?
I have not. Let's
D.D. Palmer was believe it or not, this is back in the 1800s. He was a magnetic healer. Imagine Davenport, Iowa, a magnetic healer in the 1800s. Talk about
magnets.
Like a quack.
Yeah.
Dabbling between Eastern and Western medicine, trying to figure out, he knew something was up, that our approach to healthcare was just kind of a little ass backwards, and he was trying to figure out how to key in on the Eastern philosophies, Western philosophies, and bring them together. He had a janitor in his office, Harvey Lillard, a gentleman who had at some point in his life lost his hearing. Was sweeping around the office one night. Dee brought him in and said, hey, would you mind if I just, kind of poke around, check out your spine? I've been dabbling with some stuff. I want to see, what I think about what's going on. And he poked down on this guy's spine and felt some joints that were out of position. And, I mean, I give him credit. He put an impulse into these joints, which no one had really ever done documented-wise in our country at least. Heard a loud pop. Harvey freaked, ran out of the office, and Dee didn't know if he cured him or killed him. And sure enough, I don't know if it was a few days or a week later, Harvey comes back, and amazingly his hearing was restored. So it was documented that he was able, they call it the crack herd around the world, that adjustment restored someone's hearing. So it had nothing to do with neck pain, back pain, which is how we got pigeonholed later on in our careers. But that first adjustment restored his hearing. So that put chiropractic on a map, or at least what was going to become chiropractic. So Dee and his son BJ kind of really started the process. They opened up the first college, 1895.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That something could start that way. And I think about medicine in general and the medical practice. And if you look back at that history, my father-in-law is a physician, but he embraces. He's retired now.
Sure.
But he's embraced some of the Eastern medicine practices of acupuncture, needling, and believes that it absolutely has a place. Big believer in chiropractic.
Cool.
and now doing yoga, meditation.
Love it.
And for my Christian friends out there, when you hear meditation, they get all a little spooked out by that. And I'm like,
I did too at first, but
Yeah.
meditation is what you make it.
Right.
It's not hour of Om. I mean, it can be 5-10 minutes or whatever you need to clear your mind and get your thoughts right.
So all of those things of really getting in touch with your body, and if you can share with the audience, one of the things you did with me when I had my back episode, and by the way, I mean, like sitting here today, 6 months ago, I think one of our early episodes, I'm kind of tweaked in the chair, and I've got the zapper thing on my back.
Yeah.
What are those called?
TENS units.
TENS units.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've got the TENS on, and I'm underneath the table just zapping myself because I'm in such pain, and that helped. And that was right before I'd gone to see you, and that TENS unit, I didn't even put it on after a week.
It's a good modality. It's a pain reliever. Again, it's helping a symptom, but not doing much structurally to the spine to take the pressure away from the nervous system.
Yeah. It's amazing. But the manipulation of my lower back, some things you did, but you could trigger in with that meter that you put on my back, and I'm using the wrong word, so again, my ignorance is bliss. But you used this device to be able to look at my nerve impulses.
So
what is that?
The computerized nerve scans that we do?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're designed to, when I talk about that nervous system where 10% of it we can feel, you can easily point to, Doc, this is where it hurts.
Yeah.
Great. That's the 10% we want to focus on to get you out of pain. The other 90% of the nervous system we need to look at. So we do rolling thermographies, which shows a heat differential coming off the spine at very specific levels, showing areas of inflammation. Static EMGs, electromyographs. Our spine nervous system is electrical activity.
Right.
People don't realize
And it
that
picks up those.
we are electricity. That's what our body is. Yeah. So going down the spine with these, it just helps us dig a little deeper and that kind of window into the nervous system that you can't tell me, but we need to know what's functioning, what's in dysfunction to make sure that we keep it on the right
this
areas.
graph, my point, it picked it up.
Absolutely.
It picked up that I was having some issues.
Yeah, it's great
down
technology.
There. But you also correlated it back, hey, this could be gut health. This could be a lung issue. This could be allergies.
And that's the biggest thing we try from an education standpoint, and I think how we separate ourselves from a lot of the other chiropractors is that the majority of the chiropractic world kind of fell into the whole pigeonhole of neck pain, back pain.
Yeah.
It's great, and you can have a great career of getting people feeling better. But when you get someone to understand that your nervous system, if it's not functioning well, aside from neck pain and back pain, that should be the least of your concerns. It's going to impact your heart health, your pulmonary health. Those same nerves that are creating neck and back pain are going to those vital organs.
So what's interesting to me is I got referred to you by a Special Forces guy. And you've worked around that community, and that's probably the most pragmatic, skeptical community in the world.
Oh, yeah. Tough nut to crack.
Yeah. But it appears that you've done that.
Yeah.
And that they've embraced.
I've had the incredible opportunity being in this area, and I practiced in Boston for 15 years, worked a lot with, BPD, the Boston Fire Department, so I'd always been in that world. I love our first responders, the men and women who are protecting us, so to be able to give back to them when they need it most has always been kind of part of my practice. So it just made sense moving to Virginia Beach and realizing what a huge military world there is here. And just having the chance of meeting with the guys over at VHP, Alex Oliver, he's got an incredible program. He's a retired Navy SEAL, and working with those guys and educating them on what we do. And they explained to me right away that we are a very protective group, and we don't just go out to specialists. I mean, it's all internal. It's a family-based type of thing. So gaining the trust and respect of him really kind of helped get into that program, and we've been able to serve not just the men and women of the Special Forces, but obviously all their extended family as well, which is incredible. Yeah,
and the referral goes much further than the advertising. So just
100%.
Having a patient like our friend who said, hey, KP, you need to go see Dr. Marsh. And I was like, oh, those chiropractic guys, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And my wife was already a believer. She was like, that was her first thing is, honey, go see a chiropractor.
Yeah.
And I was like,
It's usually the wives that help us out.
And what's funny about this is that I had an experience with it years ago. I was sharing with you. A buddy of mine I played basketball with for a decade had a personal story like you were talking about earlier. His personal story, he had a massive car accident, messed up his hip flexors really bad. His lower back was a mess. And he was not getting any relief from traditional medicine.
Right.
Western medicine, we'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he decided to go to a chiropractor. And within a number of treatments, it wasn't like it was magic. It all happened at once.
Correct.
But over a series of treatments, his pain went way down. Now, part of the story I hadn't shared with you is that he actually had some bone structure loss from his car accident. And so one leg was actually shorter than the other, which obviously when that happens is going to be symptomatic.
Correct. You'll see residual stuff.
Residuals,
for years.
yeah. So, but it had such an impact on him that he went to chiropractic school at the one in Atlanta.
Fantastic. And that's, when we talk about patients, and my business partner and I, we always talk about when we do a report of findings or explain chiropractic to someone, our goal, aside from them accepting care and getting better, is, man, how cool would it be if we get this person to understand how incredible chiropractic is to the point where they want to go to chiropractic school and become a chiropractor? And we have a few of those success stories, but I mean, that you hit a home run and really got through to somebody. Dude,
one of the coolest things for me is that when I first started going to you and having you treat me, was my lower back was, I would define it as fused. And I know it probably
felt fused.
It felt fused.
Right.
And my wife would always laugh because she could lay on the floor, put the right leg over the left, and twist, and you'd hear pop, 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 pop. I would put my right leg over, and it was just like
moans and groans.
Moans and groans. And so I remember like the first 3 or 4 adjustments. And you're a big dude too. So I'm 6 foot 245. You're probably in that range too. Maybe
size helps.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're just like, you have me on this table, you throw my leg over at this contorted position, and you're like, okay, just relax. And I'm like, I'm not good at relaxing, doc. But you do this adjustment, and I'm like, I didn't feel anything. Mm-hmm. And we twist and go the other way. Nothing really happens. Mm-hmm. But treatment number 2, you do that, and it's like, I'm like, oh my God, I have never heard that noise in my lower back before.
You might have been a little nervous at first.
Yeah, I was like,
wiggle the toes, make sure everything still works.
I think I'm paralyzed now. the curse word.
That's right, careful.
Terrible. So I'm like, wow. I actually, it was like a bolt of energy and a refreshment. When I walked out of there, I was like, man, I actually feel good. But you warned me. You said, hey, there might be a little residual pain later.
Absolutely.
And that evening, I was like, man, I feel like I've been worked out.
Right.
My lower back is actually a little sore. But that soreness went away, I would say, probably after about the 7th treatment. Now, I've been 2 months off because I've been traveling a lot. So this is confessional for me too, Dr. Marsh. But I promise I'll get back in.
I know. I see the schedule. I know when you're not there.
Lindsay, poor Lindsay. I'm sorry,
right.
Lindsay. Hopefully there's more like me or worse. Right?
Make
me feel better.
Absolutely.
But I would say after 7 treatments, thereabout, and I know it's going to be different for every patient, but it's really cool to come to the office now, get an adjustment, and as soon as you throw my leg over, I actually feel the first movement of.
So it's getting through that muscle guarding. There are years of buildup to a spine. So when I tell patients, this is what we do is not a magic cure. It's a process, and there are phases to care that we talk to patients about where, initially we're treating pain and getting through the muscular imbalances, those types of things. Eventually we move into more corrective care where we actually make structural changes that are going to be long-lasting. Your body starts understanding a new normal. Then the best part of treatment for a patient is the wellness preventative side. That is where the long-term approach to chiropractic comes into play, which is really the most important. I'm
a believer now. I go back and look at the secondary reports that you've given me that shows, and it's still some things I need to work on.
Right.
But a lot of that has to do with me, my diet, exercise.
All those lifestyle factors come into play. I know.
Right.
It's uphill, but yeah, just chip away.
Yeah. So, going back to this community that we both are big fans of and we serve, can you give me any stories without giving away people's names, rank, serial numbers?
Yeah, there are. This community in particular has been incredible to work with because, I mean, from a clinical side, I get to see some pretty cool injuries, which is not a nice thing to say, but in our world, to be able to take an X-ray and ask a guy, "Hey, what happened here?" Oh, that RPG, or I just had a guy tell me, I see some occult fractures, some old compression fractures. Oh yeah, I dropped 35 feet out of a helicopter. Well, God, how? What? Well, I got up. I was under fire. I had to keep going.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there like a little kid. Listen to these stories. It's unbelievable what these guys go through.
Yeah.
And their mentality is suck it up, rub some dirt on it. I got a mission to finish. And that turns into bigger issues for them health-wise down the road because their mindset doesn't allow them to take care of themselves typically.
I want to come back to that mindset, place, because you and I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
The gray matter.
So by the time I get to see them, and what's been good now is that we're getting a lot of these guys younger in their career versus picking up the pieces with a lot of the retired ones. Yeah. But the stories are incredible. So clinically, it's cool to see. I'm seeing shrapnel and learning the different calibers of bullets as I take X-rays and see metallic in a lot of these guys. So it's stuff you normally wouldn't see in your day-to-day chiropractic office. So it's some pretty cool stuff.
And not that, again, we're not going to pick on the medical industry or say they're bad. They obviously have saved thousands of our warriors,
without a doubt.
And
we want to be a piece of that puzzle.
Yeah,
and it should be a complementary type of thing where we all. I hate using the word "stay in our lane" because I don't like to be in a lane. But again, our medical world, the research, the doctors, physicians we have are incredible, but we have to all, as practitioners, take the blinders off and realize that there are different approaches to all sides of health, and that we need to kind of work together symbiotically to really give people a true understanding of health and wellness. It
was pretty cool. You were telling me off camera that one patient, and we have to be careful with HIPAA rules and stuff here, but one patient had a piece of shrapnel in his gut that the physicians had thought that it was closer to the spine than it actually was.
Yeah.
So far off that it was closer to his belly button.
Correct. And which so close to the belly button that you could actually palpate it. And you could feel it from the outside.
The chiropractor found it.
The crazy witch doctor found it. And we take X-rays in our office, so I was able to show that patient this is actually where it's at. I don't know what you've been told in the past, but trust me, I've been doing this long enough. I know the body well enough that that's your belly button and this is your spine. And sure enough, the that particular person took it upon himself with a friend to remove that metal fragment himself and has it now hanging around his neck, which is pretty cool. So he would have never known it was there or been able to have a souvenir after if it wasn't for the good old chiropractor, right?
So that's an amazing story, and that's just a testament to the intestinal fortitude that
unbelievable
some of these folks have, which takes us back to the mind. So we got this, folks, if you don't know, you're looking at this camera here, this is the size of my brain. Don't poke fun, right? And the only reason I ever knew that is my daughter Elizabeth is missing a part of her brain. Mm-hmm. And I think we talked about this before. Yeah. She has agenesis of the corpus callosum, big word, but a bundle of nerve fibers never developed inside her brain. And so, the neurologist said to me, he goes, Kenny, take your two fists, put them together. This is going to be disappointing for you, but that's your brain. Right, so your little brain.
What small hands you have.
Right. And there's other problems that come along with that too. But hey, you can't make butter with a toothpick. So.
Love it.
That was my mom's joke. I owe that to you, Mom. So what's interesting about the brain is that it's attached to that nervous system, and so you've got the master computer and the slave. Yep. Maybe think about that as the spinal cord, right?
That's why I love my patients who are electricians or my computer guys, the IT guys. They get it. So when I'm explaining to the nervous system to them and use circuit boxes and mainframes, they get it because that's exactly it. That brain and spinal cord is what is communicating with the body, and those nerves are the messengers.
It's what's interesting about those. One day I was thinking about you. I was in the studio here, and my mic was acting funny, and it was giving a little fuzz, and I was only getting sound in my right ear.
Need an adjustment.
It needed an adjustment, exactly.
Turn the lights on.
You know, you go back over here, and the guys had to go troubleshoot where the problem was. Symptomatically, it sounded like it was right here. I thought it was me.
Perfect analogy. Yeah.
But
so
it
you could play with those headphones all day long, but if you don't get to the source.
Yeah, I was sitting here doing one of these numbers and going, that's not fixing it.
Where's it coming from? Absolutely.
So, you know, using those analogies, so we look at the brain, and inside the spinal column, the bone, is the spinal cord, right?
Correct.
And I've been in your office, and I've got a visual of this in my head, and I'm trying to, you know, do this for folks at home or in their car. But the cord runs down inside of that spinal cord. Now, there's different, the L's, the C's, the S's. Tell us what those are.
The basic spinal anatomy. We have our brain. So the one incredible thing, and we talk to patients to get them to understand the importance of our nervous system and how sensitive of a structure it is the only organ in our body that is fully encased in bone. And people are like, well, you know, what about your lungs and heart? Well, sure, they're in the cavity, you know, being covered by very fragile little fencing, your ribs.
Right.
You know, not much of a protection, but you have your skull, which is a pretty solid, you know, structure of bone encasing the brain. Spinal cord travels down.
For you and I, that would be the chrome dome.
The chrome dome, you got it. But there it is. I was waiting.
Rap horn there.
That spinal cord that travels down, it's traveling through 24 individual vertebrae. And this is 8th grade science class. We all know that, you know, well, we should all know, hopefully.
Well, I didn't go past 5th grade. I didn't want to pass my dad, so, you know, there you go. Okay, all right, folks, sorry. Calm down.
Those 24 bones, the three letters you're talking about, C, T, and L, and then there's S. So we have cervical, 7 cervical vertebrae. Those are your neck bones. 12 thoracic, that is the mid-back, and then 5 lumbar, low back, and then you get into the sacral region, which is the S. So CTLS.
CTL, okay.
Is the easy way to look at it.
So when you hear somebody talk about their C vertebrae, their L.
C spine, T spine, L spine, neck, mid, low back.
Got it.
Yep.
So do you know how many fibers are inside the normal spinal? Is there
tens of thousands?
Tens of thousands.
Yeah. Hundreds of thousands, maybe. I don't know.
And those nerve fibers run out from that spine all the way to my fingertips?
All to your fingertips, to every cell, tissue, and organ.
So if I have this feeling now, just putting my index finger and thumb together, rubbing it together, and I have a sensation.
That's tactile talk. So yes, your brain is using those sensory fibers to send signals back and forth to let you know you're touching something.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
But if my spine, the bone, is impinging, is that the right word you guys use?
Yeah, impinged, irritate. So there's a term that chiropractors use called subluxation, and the word means less than a dislocation. So there are medical subluxations. You can sublux your shoulder, meaning you don't fully dislocate it, but a vertebral subluxation complex, VSC, that's specific to chiropractic.
Okay.
That means one of the vertebrae or multiple vertebrae has shifted out of position, and more importantly, it stopped moving the way it should. So that will irritate the soft tissue within the spine, around the spine, disc material, but the lack of motion will trigger a degenerative process.
So some of my family members have had scoliosis. Mm-hmm. Is that treatable, and can it be fixed?
It's definitely treatable. I just have I believe she's 9 years old, just started this week, and parents were shocked and horrified because we took x-rays because I noticed some things posturally. So we took x-rays of this young girl, and she has a scoliosis, and mother was almost in tears saying, oh my God, she's going to be in a lifetime of pain. We have to do bracing. This could be surgery. I had to quickly calm her down, and I said the chiropractors look at this a little differently. If this is an orthopedist, they might be a little more aggressive with their techniques because that's what they do and what they know. Yeah. Our approach is, hey, she's 9 years old. That's a piece of clay that we can work with here. Yeah. I didn't catch this at age 30. So scoliosis is one of those funny things. Over 90% of scoliosis in patients is considered idiopathic, which means no known cause. Hundreds of years of medicine, chiropractic, all of these professions, and we're still telling people we have no idea why you have this. Yeah. But the chiropractic approach is more functional. It's not throw this person in a turtle shell brace and try to force bones back into place. There's soft tissues that are attached to these vertebrae that are imbalanced.
Yeah.
And that's why you can have a scoliosis standing up, bend over, and it can go away. Or you can bend over, have a scoliosis, stand up, and it go away. That's a functional scoliosis that can be worked on.
Yeah.
There are congenital anomalies that happen. If a shape of a bone is wedged, that's going to naturally cause a structural scoliosis that you're going to have less success with. But we have incredible success taking patients, the younger the better to start. That's why we try to encourage younger people to come in and get evaluated. They have the same spine as we adults do, but kids won't complain of neck pain and back pain the way old, 50-year-olds like us would.
Right. That comes back to this gray matter, the belief system and the mindset. A 9-year-old hasn't been taught negative belief systems, right?
Correct.
So they come into
Clean
you.
slate.
Yeah, you go to the 9-year-old and you say, "Look, honey, I'm going to do a few things here to help manage your spine care," or whatever word you use for a 9-year-old. I'd be like, "Hey, honey, lay on the bed. We're going to twist your back and we're going to crack your back, right?" Right. No, please don't do that.
Right.
So words are important.
100%.
So in this mindset, you and I have read a lot of the same books. We're going to put the books that you're reading
Cool.
on the website today, but one being Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, one of our favorite books
Absolutely.
of all time. The mind and what we put into it, garbage in, garbage out, that GIGO mindset.
Absolutely.
How much of that goes along with chiropractic care?
Huge, because there are paradigms. There's a guy, Bob Proctor. I don't know if you've heard of Bob Proctor. I've loved his stuff, and he's well into his 80s now, but become an incredibly successful businessman. And he started with nothing, as most successful businessmen did. Yeah. And he talks about paradigms and what we're taught, the mother, father, preacher, teacher thing that is just embedded into us, that what our reality is was created and can be changed if you want to dive into it and kind of clean the slate and start looking at things differently. So anyone that is willing to take everything they've learned healthcare-wise up to whatever age they are, if they're 9 years old or some of my 40, 50, 60-year-old patients, and I have basically an hour or two to try to completely retrain their thought process, to not to discourage them and saying you've been doing everything all wrong, but if our approach in our society has been correct for the last, say, 100 years, why are we one of the unhealthiest nations in the world?
Good point.
And it's just like, man, we're just banging our head against the wall, looking at it the wrong way.
Yeah.
But when you start retraining your thought process, saying, okay, let me get out of my comfort zone, and this new process may be a little more uncomfortable for me because we inherently want to be comfortable. That's just how our bodies are designed genetically. Yeah. And that comfort zone can really run us into trouble health-wise, long periods.
So bringing that mindset back to a business owner, chiropractic care, you're in the service business.
Correct. That's what I tell my staff all the time.
Yeah.
We're in healthcare, but we're customer service.
Yeah. You're like in my industry, in the financial services, I would refer to us as people processors. Mm-hmm. We process people. Some will, some won't.
Correct.
Process the next one.
And we're trying to narrow that gap.
Yeah.
We're not going to get through to everybody, but if we can get through to the majority of people that come through our door, even if they don't stick with us, hopefully after they have their evaluation and we do what we call a report of findings and really break down to them what is going on, it may take them another year or two to finally take the leap, but at least we open the door for them.
So you're going into an industry already, and let's talk business for a few minutes. You're going into an industry where people already think you're quacks. Yep. It's kind of like when people know, hey, Kenny, you love life insurance. And when I say the L word to people, they're like, oh, God, here you go, big commissions, blah, And I'm like, can we take a step back and just have a conversation?
Right.
And talk through this? And that's where I had to get with chiropractic care, was just be willing to listen and listen to my body, number one, then listen to a professional, give their opinion of how they can help. So you go into business, you're already pushing rope uphill with going into a medical field that, or a wellness field. I don't know if I want to make sure I use the right words. And wellness is what everything should be in medical, right? So how hard was it for you to start your own business?
the business I started in Virginia Beach, I had the luxury of teaming up with my business partner, Dr. Lombardozzi, who has really helped change my life, my thought process. So he's business partner, yes, but a lot more of a mentor as well.
Awesome.
And he, so that made it a lot easier. I've been in practice 15 years prior to coming to Virginia Beach.
Wow.
And I thought I had it figured out. And I realized once I got here, I was smart enough to knock down all my walls and let this guy kind of rebuild me from the ground up, which luckily the learning curve was higher because I've been doing this long enough. I just had to get my mind right.
If I can stop you there, was the early first 15 years, was it get as many people through the trough as possible?
It was a grind.
Yeah.
And it, whether it's chiropractic or any business, when you're not doing the right things for the right reasons, you're going to grind yourself to death.
Yeah.
You may be successful monetarily, different ways you judge success, but it was way harder than it should have been. And I've now over doubled the practice. It took me 15 years to build there in less than 5, and starting another practice on top of that. So when I changed my mindset and got involved with Frank and really figured out, okay, I got to relearn chiropractic and what's my mission? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Is this to fill my office to make money, or is this to really educate a community and get them to understand that there is a different way to approach health and wellness that can give you an incredible life moving forward? The success of our practice has happened as a result of that. So when I got out of my own head and realized that I need to be a resource for the community, educate them, adapt to this whole COVID thing. Obviously, what a great time for chiropractors to educate. My business hasn't been close to as successful than it has in the last 4 months.
Wow.
So we're seeing, unfortunately, businesses crumble, chiropractors losing their businesses because they didn't adapt, they didn't educate their patients right, and get them to understand that this is the time to get adjusted. You want to see a chiropractor and talk about building immunity. How better than to take pressure off the nervous system that controls your immune system? And we're not seeing that. And not to go off on a tangent, but that's what's so frustrating as chiropractors, seeing everything in the media and in the medical world. Everything is mask, social distance, get out of the sunlight, go tuck yourself away. It's the only way we can beat this virus. If you understand the germ theory, and again, I don't want to go out too deep in this rabbit hole. We could spend another hour, but germ theory basically states germs, bacteria, viruses enter our body and we get sick.
Right.
But if you take 10 people, you have to ask yourself the question, why if you put 10 people in a room, that same bacteria or virus is exposed to them, only 1 or 2 of them get sick?
Yeah.
It's not the bacteria and virus, it's the environment it's entering it. Is it weak or strong? There are immunosuppressed, the elderly. Obviously, we need to be responsible, but my first thought is, why isn't the media teaching us how to build a strong immune system?
If I could add to that just for a second, and I don't know the science behind this, and I could be quacky telling you this, but last December, I'm pretty certain I had this. I hate to even give power to the word COVID now,
I get
but
it.
I had.
You probably did.
Yeah, I had the smell, the taste.
Yep.
It went through our house. It went through our church.
Yep.
No one died.
Right.
Now,
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God, absolutely. But I remember going right before we went on vacation. No, it's right after I got back from vacation. I'd gone to the doc, and mine turned into pneumonia. Mm-hmm. And I was at the point where my body needed some antibiotics, and I know you're
time and a place.
Yeah, you would agree with that it's a time and a place for it. But what really made me feel better, and you just reminded me of this, is that myself, I think my son-in-law, my boys that were in town, we went to Foot Spa. And over on Virginia Beach Boulevard. Yeah. So shout out for Foot Spa. They give me a massage
there
for free. But, being silly. I go there and, they're doing the warm water, the foot massage thing. But towards the end of that, they actually put you on the massage table, face down, and, give you a pretty quick, it's not like the therapy that your masseuse does in your office, which we'll talk about that in a second. But the guy noticed that I was coughing and wheezing, and the guy it was archaic. He just started beating on my back and gave me a cup.
Yeah, sputum comes up.
And literally, it's pretty gross, and I don't want to gross folks out, but one of those little styrofoam cups, it was over half full. after about 15 minutes of just beating the shit, excuse my French, out of my back. But when I got up and got dressed and went outside, I was like, oh my gosh,
I'm back.
I can actually breathe again.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about one of my friends who has cystic fibrosis, and just that archaic, every once in a while, you just have to beat the crap out of the back to get that stuff out of the lungs.
Yeah.
And I thought about that from a chiropractic point of view, is that sometimes you got to just, maybe not beat up the spine, but you've got to spend some time doing the hard thing.
Yeah.
And it reminds me back to business. If you don't do the hard thing, and it's not that it has to be hard, but
Right.
processing people is not easy. Being told no is not easy. Sometimes you just got to keep doing it until it comes up, until it comes out. And so in your business, how would you encourage other business owners during this period? What would you say to them?
I would say adapt is the first word. Our practice in particular, we're very education based. So on a monthly basis, we would fill our offices up and do workshops on different, lifestyle things, teaching people how to eat right, stress management, all these types of things. Once a month, we'd go out to the local Why Not and do workshops there as well. And we'd fill the room up with 20, 30, 40 people. And COVID hits.
People love to eat, so you take them to the pizza
that's
joint.
What we always, we try to keep it healthy. We did a healthy version, some salads and stuff. But all that came to a screeching halt, where people won't even come to the office for an adjustment, let alone try to put them in a room with 20 other people. I mean, God, you'd have the Board of Health banging down your door. But okay, how do we now adapt our business model to where we used to be face-to-face with these people? We got to figure this out, because, just like any other business, you could be the best chiropractor in the world, but if you're not exposing yourself to the right people, you're going to die on the vine. So adaptability was huge. Again, my partner Frank and he spent a lot more time, thank God, really investigating and figuring out different ways to get our message out electronically, virtually, that type of stuff. So we're now doing workshops through Zoom, things we would never think we would ever do. We hate doing it that way because we're people, people. So we want to be face to face, but until then, we still got to get our message out. So
people still need care. Backs are still
100%. So to chiropractors that are sitting on their butts saying, "Oh man, woe is me. This whole COVID thing is going to shut me down." Boo-hoo. Get up, figure it out.
And when you speak stuff like that into the universe,
we get to those universal laws, cause and effect and law of correspondence. Who you are on the inside is going to directly show on the outside. So that law of attraction. Yep.
The attraction that I had to you from something that happened with my spine to us communicating, hey, what is it you're doing? And I get to understand your business. And
positive attracts positive,
Here you are today,
right,
talking about how we have a very similar methodology to getting in front of people.
Right. And the last thing, and I'm great one-on-one with you. You throw a camera in my face, the comfort level drops quick, right? So, again, something that I keep going back to Frank, because he's been a great mentor and a great partner to work with. Getting comfortable being uncomfortable is probably the best thing, and a mantra I tell myself all the time, because everything internally in your body wants to just run and hide, right? That's just how our bodies were made to protect itself. Right. But that's not going to get you anywhere. Successful people get comfortable being uncomfortable.
You listed a few books. One, Brian Tracy, Maximum Achievement.
Yeah.
What drew you to that book? And you said to me in the green room earlier that you're not you don't like to read. I don't know many people that really like to. I think there's a mental problem with that.
I can almost say hate. I could probably list 5 books in my entire life I read for pleasure. And I blame all my education. I was forced to just read constantly. So the last thing, if I was out of the education world, was get that book away from me. I'll do something else. I'll listen to music, whatever. So I just figure if I am going to read something, it's not going to be, that romance novel on the beach. I just can't do it. It's just not part of me. So when I'm forced to read, or I force myself to read, it's going to be something that is going to help me personally, professionally, financially, obviously. Yeah. So, I dove into that. And again, I keep bringing Frank up. He kind of opened me up to a lot of this stuff that for 15 years of practice, I knew it was out there in the ether. Yeah. The Tony Robbins and the Brian Tracys, I've heard of them. I've been to a few seminars here and there, but you really just have to make it habit. It's got to become part of your daily routine.
Yeah, I was telling you off camera, I got to meet Tony Robbins personally. Went through some training with him about 3 years ago out in San Francisco. And, I'd read Awaken the Giant, listened to the cassette tapes back in the
That's right.
in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm this consummate skeptic.
Sure.
And so I was like,
Finding what's wrong with this.
what's wrong? Yeah, what's wrong with Tony's just trying to line his pockets.
Yep.
And what I found out was meeting him one-on-one, this guy really
He's the real deal.
believes in helping people. And it's not about the money. The money is there because it's a big commitment. You spend $10,000 on something, you're going to pay attention.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not, then you probably didn't need that money anyway. You should have given it to the guy on the street.
That's right.
But finding that what's hard today, and you talk about reading. Reading is hard for those of us who are, like to do lots of things and like to be active. And, I remember a guy, Jeff Olson, wrote a book called The Slight Edge. I don't know if you've ever picked it up. It's I may have a copy here. I'll give it to you.
Cool.
But The Slight Edge, it's a reiteration of about 10 chapters of what's hard today becomes easy tomorrow. What's easy today what's hard today becomes easy tomorrow. What's easy today becomes hard tomorrow.
I use the same analogy when I do health talks with regards to health and habits, really.
Yeah.
Is that, bad habits are very easy to pick up but hard to live with down the road. Good health habits are tough in the front end, but trust me, it's going to make your life a lot easier down the road.
And it's hard for us to be futurists. Most of us look in a rearview mirror moving forward.
You got it.
And we have to change that mentality.
Yep.
And I think in health and wellness, I would have to say that you guys are doing a really good job of that. That's why I wanted to get you on the show.
Absolutely.
Never once did I feel forced or like entrapped to fall into your treatment plan. It was really left up to me how I wanted to take care of my body. Now, Lindsay texts me every once in a while when
we got to stay on you.
I need that accountability.
Absolutely.
So I
That's what it's
absolutely
about.
appreciate that.
Good.
So Maximum Achievement, Brian Tracy, Napoleon Hill. I've never read this one. I hate to say
this is
it's
a good one.
How to Raise Your Own Salary.
Basically, it's designed around. So he basically followed Andrew Carnegie for a year, I believe, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
So what it is, it's designed as an interview. It's basically he and Andrew Carnegie going back and forth within an interview. That's how the book is laid out. So it's pretty cool listening to their discussions and hearing that so much of what Andrew Carnegie was doing back in the early 1900s applies to business today.
Yeah.
And it's all about separating yourself from success in terms of everything that he's talking about. It's not me. It's how can I make the team around me want to be successful? I mean, selfishly, it's going to turn into success for you down the road. But he's just basically explaining you can't be a selfish, successful businessman.
So you had a mentor. Would you say mentors are important to
100%.
the success, no matter what industry you're in, no
100%.
matter if you're a private in the Army?
And I don't care how successful you are, there's someone doing it better and brighter and more successful than you. So that having that humility and understanding, even I'm sure, you ask Tony Robbins, he's got a mentor.
Right.
Every successful person does.
And would you say mentors? Would you say there's different industries from a pastor to a business professional or businessman that you look up to?
And that's, I think, diversifying is the smartest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Try to pull the brilliance out of as many different people as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Which is what Napoleon Hill was basically doing. He was just a leech,
right?
An information leech.
Yeah.
How do I go from every man in the world?
A publisher, writer,
Absolutely.
just following smart people around.
And the secret's not a secret; it's out there. And you mentioned that 1% of successful people.
Yeah,
we're not keeping it a secret, and it's out there if you want it.
Yeah.
So
true. You talked about I don't know this one either. Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Fantastic.
Say his name right.
Joe Dispenza. He's actually a chiropractor. Believe it or not.
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Tell me about that one.
So this is a cool. It's a deep book. It gets really into neuroscience. He's a specialist in neuroanatomy.
Like NLPs, like neuro-linguistic programming, that type of, or. That's what a lot of the Tony Robbins is. You got to change the neuro pathway.
Yes. So yes.
Okay.
You're talking doctor speak there.
Yeah, I threw some acronyms out.
Joe Dispenza, I heard his story and ended up getting his book. And he was a patient of mine who he was into a lot of the like-minded stuff, and he brought it up and he goes, "Man, I found out this guy's a chiropractor. You're going to love this book." I hear about it. I tell my partner about it, and we looked into it together. He was I think it was back in the 80s or 90s, he was a competitive bicyclist, had a horrible crash, left him with multiple, possible paralysis, multiple spinal fractures, in the hospital for months. All the specialists came in telling him, "Look, your life's changing from this day forward. We need to do this emergency surgery if you ever want to try to gain any type of mobility back." And this guy amazingly had the fortitude to say, "Nope, I'm going to figure this out on my own."
Yeah.
Stayed in the hospital, and against every surgeon's recommendation said, "I know if I think hard enough, and as crazy as this sounds, and really dive into my own thought process, that I can self-heal."
Yeah.
And that's a foundation of chiropractic. We have this innate intelligence in us if your body is functioning at the right level. And sure enough, and again, it is hard to believe, and you have to have an open mind reading this book, but you have the ability to really dive into and change neural pathways. Your thought process, it's not hardwired.
Yeah.
We may think it is, but it's a tough process, and you really got to dive deep, but you can really change the thought process.
The encouragement that I got from that statement alone was from my own daughter. And that Lizzie, missing her corpus callosum, that was the super information. That was the highway, the super information highway. And she was born without it, but her brain
figured it out,
adapted.
That's the bridge between left hemisphere, right hemisphere. So your thought process: how could someone literally even live, let alone thrive?
Yeah,
and the body figures it out.
Yeah, and she, that's the will to live.
Yep.
And Lizzie had that. That 97% of children who had her condition die in utero.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
And
that's incredible.
So, love him or hate him, our governor, Dr. Ralph Northam.
No comment.
Get your act together, Ralph. And I can say Ralph because we used to talk fishing when he was Lizzie's neurologist.
Got it.
Kathleen would get mad at us for talking fishing, but
yep.
Human being. I think he's a decent human being. His politics are a little off kilter with mine, and. Get it right, Ralph.
Agreed.
Become a Republican. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to have all my Democratic friends and liberal friends after me now.
That's right.
So we're not going to edit that. We're going to keep it out there. We'll pray for Ralph, Dr. Governor Ralph. What's that?
That's going to be the name of the podcast. Get it right, Ralph.
Get it right, Ralph. But, early on in Lizzie's condition, she was told by Dr. Northam that there was a high potential. She had never walked. She had never talked.
The girl running through my office?
The girl running through your
office. Laughing and hugging?
That's right.
Got it.
And the beautiful thing is that we call her the Porter Ambassador. She's out there. But I'm not trying to make this about Lizzie.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to encourage people to understand is exactly what you're saying, is that you have the power, you have the ability in your mind. And if you don't mind, it won't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Love it.
And so that mindset that if I know the information, and a friend came to me with information and said, "Hey, KP, go see Dr. Marsh," I had something I could do with that. I could implement some of what he said, all of what he said, or tell him to pound sand.
Or you could have followed all your preconceived notions of what you've known of chiropractic or thought you knew of it and say, "You're crazy. Those guys are quacks."
They're right. So, within that world, I trusted that person, and so I had borrowed trust coming to see you. And I think that's what's important in our world. It's the same thing in my world, is that we have to learn to build trust bridges.
Absolutely.
And in those trust bridges, that creates validation and verification. And what I can validate for an audience today and verify for them that the process you took me through helped my body to heal. And that's my southern heel. The heel. Noah, how would you say it from the Midwest? Heel. 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 Hill or Heal. Go up the hill to heal. But it wasn't easy.
Right.
And so bringing it back to that mindset, and that's what we learned from a lot of these authors. We didn't even talk about Grant Cardone, 10 times rule. and then the big
When
guy.
when I do a wake up call, I listen to Grant. He's a little intense.
That's right.
But,
Got to have that.
The David Goggins, those guys.
Oh,
Sometimes you need
yeah.
a few F-bombs.
Jocko.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. And, we were talking about sales the other night. A guy in town, Tim Day, who I haven't met yet, but he was in town speaking, and I missed it last night. If you know him, let him know. I want to try to get him on the show and talk about his story. 27 times this guy was shot.
Oh, Mike.
Mike Day.
I thought that was a different day.
No.
Yeah.
I was Tim Kennedy.
That's right.
I'll screw up everybody's
Yeah,
name.
this guy's story. Yeah, check him out. He's done interviews, Nightline, NBC. You Google him instantly, you'll see a lot of.
And I haven't met
story.
him yet. I'm gonna probably get punched in the nose
great
for
guy. Yeah.
saying his name wrong. Mike
might.
Day. What was the name of his book? Look it up for me, guys. I blanked on it.
Mike Day?
Yeah, and he's doing a little book tour right now. It's worth giving him a shout out because that's a read that captivated me. That wasn't a business book. Perfectly Wounded.
There it is.
That's it. It's and by the way, we don't know each other, and I'm just telling you, I started reading that last night, and I probably could have sat through the whole thing, but
No kid.
Family, kids, and grandkids, and new grandbabies.
That's right.
But beautiful story, beautiful book, and I would tell you go take a look. So the last one on the list here, Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant.
Yeah, it's the Bible, right?
Yeah, that's like of personal development.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to your business and from a business aspect, where do you see your practice 5 years, 7 years, 10 years? Have you thought through that yet?
Oh, yeah. And, again, Frank and I talk about short and long-term goals on a weekly basis and what we're looking to do. The goal is to expand our reach as far as we can. I mean, he's out in the Kempsville area. So when I came down to Virginia, we said, okay, well, if you're in Kempsville, let's hit the opposite side of Virginia Beach and figure a way to meet in the middle. So obviously I'm more in the Red Mill, side of Virginia Beach. So we've already opened up a third office, Commonwealth Chiropractic, which is just a few miles down in the new One Life facility right on General Booth. But the goal is to replicate. I mean, we've got a great system in place. Frank's wife, Lisa, who's our practice manager, is incredible. So on the admin side, she should be getting paid millions of dollars to help other practices.
You just said that on video and film.
I will say it, and she'll thank me for it.
Pay raise is coming, Lisa.
We've got a great system in place. It's education based, and I think it's just managing it the right way. Not looking to make millions of dollars, but to expose what you have to offer the public in the right, honest way.
The money will follow when you do the right thing.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, look, we're coming up on an hour today. I want to be sensitive to your time because patients are waiting for you. And
the scotch is looking better and better, so I got to get it.
Yeah. If you have that, if it's Kenny Porter on there today, you might want to take a quick shot before you leave. But hey, thank you so much for coming in and sharing with me. I'd love to get you back on the show in the future.
Absolutely.
Maybe bring Frank in. We do is he crazy?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'll just leave him and go because he'll take over the show.
Yeah, I'd love to chat with him.
He would love it too.
That would be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And I don't mind sharing in our local community guys who are doing it right.
Yeah.
You're one of them.
Cool. Good to hear, man. Appreciate it.
So you appreciate what you're doing in the Red Mill community and for our troops.
Absolutely.
Sailors. We really appreciate you, Dr. Marsh. I think my back feels amazing, so there's a big promo.
And
shout out for you guys. Tell us how people can find you in the Red Mill and then Kempsville.
So my office is called Red Mill Chiropractic, 2236 General Booth Boulevard. You can go to redmillchiro.com. And we have a whole marketing director that handles Instagram and all those other things. I'm on Facebook. That's all I know.
We'll put it on the site for you.
So, but redmillchiro.com. We have Commonwealth Chiropractic as well, commonwealthchiro.com as well. And then Kempsville Chiropractic out in the Kempsville, Centerville area. That's kempsvillechiro.com as well. So 3 different offices conveniently located for anyone in Virginia Beach to check us out.
So if you're a young student graduating from chiropractic school, they should
come on in. We are looking
reach
to
out
grow.
to you.
We are looking to grow. Anyone interested, and whenever we do anything in the public forum, from an evaluation standpoint, just to encourage people to get a good baseline of what their spinal health is, we separate ourselves in our practice with our diagnostics and the time we take taking patients through that initial process.
Yeah.
People come to our office, that first evaluation can take an hour and a half, and they're thinking, geez, I've been to the chiropractor before. I was in and out in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's different. So,
Yeah.
but it's different in the sense that we're giving you good information to make healthcare decisions based on. So we do orthopedic testing, neurological testing, x-rays of your spine, computerized nerve scans that we talked about. All of that typically is a $280 value we offer to anybody at something like this for $50. So if they mention, hey, I heard you on that podcast, come in, $50. You can get that evaluation plus a report of findings, so you can at least have a good understanding of how healthy or
I think
unhealthy.
mine was 75.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but you saw me coming. You're like, oh, that guy's
right.
going to be
He's got money.
We got to raise the rate on. No, I'm totally kidding. You did not do that. So that's awesome. So $50 and you can get a full eval. That's a copay at a regular
It is,
physician.
but we don't want at least people to get information. We don't want money to be a deterrent. So at
Yeah.
least come and get the information you need. We'll explain to you if we think you're a good chiropractic patient. Great. We'll tell you what the process should be. We have the easy job. I can clinically tell you what you should do. I can't force anyone or hold their hand through a process. But
personal responsibility again
and that's
creeps
it.
up, right?
And I tell patients also, if I don't think I can help you, I'll tell you that too. But one way or another, you're going to get answers and understand how healthy you are, not just from a pain standpoint, but from a functional standpoint.
Yeah. Well, you're awesome.
I appreciate
it. Fortunate to get you on the show. So
my pleasure. Anytime.
thank you, and go take care of some patients today. And we'll turn the camera off so you can throw that Johnny back. Hey, thanks for coming and see us.
Thanks,
Appreciate
appreciate it.
All right, bye.
Good.